Hey guys, this is Dr. LaHue. Thank you for joining me for this video. Today we're talking about Enneagram Type 9, also called the Peacemaker. And I hope that this video will be beneficial to you in your relationships with people who are Type 9s, or if you yourself are a Type 9. I hope you'll find this video encouraging, but also I think you'll find it challenging information as well. So let's talk about what's going on in the mind and in the heart, in the conscious mind, maybe the unconscious mind of Type 9. 9s want to go with the flow. They want to get along with people. They are often thought of as easygoing people that are kind and peaceful, and they are kind of like the lumbering elephant in that there's a lot of power there, but they may have a hard time getting initiated into action. So they sometimes might be thought of as kind of lumbering through life, lumbering from one person to the next or from one project to the next. Maybe not like gazelle intensity, like running at something, not like the lion who has that goal in mind that's driving them. The 9 tends to be okay with whoever they're talking to at the time, and not feeling a need to network and move among people. They tend to be happy with whatever project they're on, and will focus their attention on even if it's not the project that needs to be done. And see, there's kind of the problem, is they're content working on the project that's in front of them, talking to the person that's in front of them, focusing on whatever is in front of them. When maybe there are more important or higher priority items that need to be taken care of. They tend to focus on the bright side of life, on the positive side of life. And the reason, of course, is because if I focus on the negatives will force me into action. And their whole personality is built on how can I be unmoved by others and not move others. So they want to be not infringed upon. And so if I focus on the positive things of life and I focus on the peaceful side of life, then I'm not compelled to action. I'm not forced into changing things. Changing things is not comfortable for 9s. 9s like to keep things the same, predictable, stable, peaceful. Change brings conflict. Conflict is to be avoided. They don't want to be infringed upon, and they also don't want to infringe on others. So they're willing to go along with others to keep the peace. And none of this is necessarily conscious. They just think that's what you should do. You should do whatever it takes to avoid conflict. Don't make a big deal out of yourself. Don't enforce your will on others. And then you can have peace with others. And so they might get frustrated because other people, will choose sometimes a more bold or direct path, and they think to them, why would you choose to act like that? Why would you bring conflict into your life? You're doing everything in the hardest way possible. Why don't you just, let go of some of that frustration and quit frustrating others? So there's where 9s can sometimes get upset, is why are people choosing to be so dominant and forceful and belligerent when they could choose a much more peaceful path? 9s have a strong calming influence on others. They tend to think of 9s like quicksand, and I don't mean that to make fun of you guys that are 9s, but whatever steps into the quicksand is going to be slowed down. And reality is there's some of us that need to be slowed down, that need to, think before we act a little bit more, and need to, pause and become more reflective. And so whenever you're with a 9, their tendency on you is to kind of slow you down and to sort of like, make you more at peace. And so they have a calming influence on others, a mellowing influence. Mellow is a good word for 9s, mellow. Where, like with the 4s, a good word is melancholy. That kind of like acceptance of sadness or of painful things. I think mellow is a good word for nines, kind of a calming presence. Nines really can see everybody's point of view. They live at the top of the Enneagram. And from that position, they look down on all the other numbers, and they really can, sympathize, maybe even empathize with each other person's point of view. If you are going through a study on the Enneagram and you can't decide what number you are, you go back and forth, and you can kind of see yourself as every one of the numbers or types on the Enneagram, there's a chance that you are a 9, because that's inherently what it means to be a 9, is that you can understand and appreciate and put yourself in every person's shoes and see the perspective of all the other types. And that's why it can be hard maybe to voice your own or be in touch with your own point of view, because you so readily see everyone else's point of view. And that's what makes 9s such good mediators, is when you have two people that are at opposite ends of a position and see things from a totally different point of view, the 9 really can arbitrate between both of those because they see both points of view. And they are working for peace. They're working to negotiate and mediate that conflict, because conflict is what is so unacceptable to 9s, because conflict forces you out of your comfort, and comfort is very important to 9s. Comfortable places, comfortable people, comfortable surroundings, and conflict can upset that comfort, and that's really what upsets 9s, is when people are upsetting their comfort. So they're good mediators, and their superpower is, to be a supportive, steadfast person in your life, making people around them feel honored, making other people around them feel included. 9s usually are uncomfortable facing conflict in life. And to the point that the danger is they can accommodate themselves and accommodate their own views so much to other people's views that this is kind of how they lose themselves. They merge with other people, dominant people. 9s, can take the view and the opinion of whoever they spoke with last. And so, one person comes in with a very strong point of view. Let's say, for example, that we need to move the file cabinets to the yellow room. And they'll voice their opinion and voice all of the reasons. And by the time they're done talking, the 9 says, I think you're right. I think we need to move the filing cabinets to the yellow room. And, person A walks away and person B comes in and voices their opinion that we need to move the filing cabinets to the green room. And they voice all of the reasons and voice all of the purpose for that. And by the time they're done, the 9 will find themselves saying, I think you're right. We need to move the filing cabinets to the green room. And they're not trying to play both sides. They're not trying to jockey people, play both sides, make everybody like them so that they can get ahead. They really can see both points of view, and they want to merge with the people that are speaking to them. They want to be at peace and keep the relationships peaceful, and they can understand both positions. Sometimes in that, find themselves in the middle of conflict, or conflict that they're creating because they won't voice their own agenda, maybe strong enough, or voice their own opinion strong enough. 9s feel like being a separate self, being true to themselves. First of all, knowing themselves can be a challenge to 9s, because in agreeing with people and in getting along with people, they have to kind of push down and suppress their own views and their own ideas and their own opinions, to the point that they may not really be able to get in touch with those opinions and views and really just be like, well, whatever you want's fine. Whatever you decide's fine. Wherever you want to eat's fine. Whatever you know. And so they push down and suppress their own opinions and their own views and their own personality so much that they may have a really hard time being a separate self. Being a separate self and believing and standing up for their own values and opinions to some nines could seem like an aggressive act. To just have an opinion of their own, to just stand on their own 2 feet, to just say, no, you will not talk to me like that, or no, you cannot use this room. It is someone else's turn to use this room. I'm sorry. To voice opinions and to say no and to stand up for themselves seems like to a 9 to be an act of aggression, when really you're just holding a boundary. You're not pressing in on someone else. Just holding their own boundary sometimes can seem like an act of aggression. So they may just forget about that and follow other people's opinions or other people's dreams. They can literally lose themselves in relationships with others, going along to the point that it becomes unhealthy. They can empathize so well and put themselves in other people's shoes to the point that they lose themselves and their own shoes. They kind of forget about themselves so much that they lose their own way. They can say yes to things that they really should say no to, just to be agreeable and just to keep the peace. And in fact, they may look at you and listen to what you're saying and say yes, but really have no intention of ever following through on any changes or on acting on that decision. So they may and that can frustrate people because, we might take that as though you're being opposite. And really that's what it is. It's remember, the 9 is in the anger triad. The 8, the 9, and the 1. And the 8, that looks very visible. You can see it, the anger coming back at you. The 1, it looks like frustration. They're going around behind you and cleaning up behind you and fixing the things that you left a mess and organizing your mess. But for the 9s, the anger looks more like stubbornness. Okay? It looks more like they're saying yes to what you're saying and agreeing with you, but then will they actually follow through is yet to be seen. Now, they may give you some kind of lame excuses why they didn't follow through. Well, I forgot, or well, the traffic was really bad, so I couldn't stop and do X, Y, and Z. I'll take care of it. I'll get those papers in. Well, I tried to, but the lady at the counter wasn't there. And so there's this stubbornness of wanting to not move, wanting to not have to be infringed on, wanting to not have to give up their comforts or change. And so their anger can look like stubbornness. They can kind of do a disappearing act in life. They can fall so far into the background that they almost become invisible because they don't want to be a problem to others, because they don't want others to be a problem to them. Okay, you see how that works? They don't want to be a problem to you because they don't want you to be a problem to them. They want you, like an 8, they want you to stay on your side and your lane, and they'll stay on their side and their lane. But rather than enforce that boundary like an 8 will, like don't come onto my property, they'll welcome you onto the property and smile and talk to you. And yes, I will take care of that gutter. I'll fix that gutter. You've got it. And then the person leaves, they don't fix the gutter. So they want to not be infringed on, so they don't infringe on you. And they can kind of do a disappearing act. They'll say things like, "Oh, don't worry about buying a birthday present for me. I know you love me. Let's eat at whatever restaurant you want to eat at. It doesn't matter to me." And in that, you hear that inherent, I don't matter. I'm not important. I shouldn't be the focus of your priorities. And don't focus your attention on me. Whatever you want's fine. And so they're trying to not be a problem. and they really don't want you to be a problem to them. So they feel that their presence and their opinions and their involvement don't really matter, that it's of no real particular consequence. That may sound terrible to some of you guys, that your opinion doesn't matter. I mean, some of you guys, you 8s, you 1s, you 3s, that your opinion doesn't matter. Because some of us, on the Enneagram, we think our opinion should rule the day. And it may sound terrible that, wow, how can anybody be like that they think their opinion doesn't matter? But for them, that's a comforting thought. It allows them to minimize their hopes and their expectations in life so that they won't ever end up feeling frustrated with life or rejected by life or angry or disappointed. So it's kind of like they just suppress it all and suppress their will, and then I never have to be upset. I never have to be, taken for granted because I take myself for granted. It relieves a lot of the pressure of life. They can over-adjust themselves to others that they have a hard time ever registering their own desires or asserting themselves or understanding and asserting their own agendas in life. They don't want their comfort to be affected by other people, and they defend themselves against being changed by others. So they don't try to change others because they don't want to be changed themselves. They maintain a sense of calm and connectedness to the outside, which diminishes an awareness of what's going on the inside. So they're very aware of what you want, and they're trying to give you what you want, but what they lose sight of is what they want. They don't know what they want. They don't think about what they want. And this is how 9s get lost, is they don't show up fully to life because they're trying to be so agreeable and trying to be so willing to get along that they lose their own identity, in a sense, in that process. So by accommodating to others and avoiding conflict in order to achieve comfort, they become somewhat deaf to their own inner voice, to their own inner desires. And they got to learn to wake up. You got to learn to wake up to yourself. I know you're afraid. If I wake up and I say out loud what I want to do, and I write my priorities down, and I set down some goals and set those goals down, then that could upset the equilibrium in my relationships. That could make people mad. That could make people feel like I'm rejecting them. They could reject me. It could cause all kinds of strife. Is it going to be worth it? Think about that. Is it worth it for you to say out loud what it is you want to accomplish in life? Is it worth it for you to show up fully at life? These are the things that maybe you've been avoiding in life. You wake up one day and you realize you've only kind of been living half a life. The dominoes of every day are falling. The time is running out. And this is the inherent danger of, everybody loves you as a 9. You're so easy to get along with. Your whole personality is built around not being a problem. And that's why people are drawn to you. Remember, everybody applauds us for the things that are destroying us. That's what the Enneagram teaches us. The things that ruin our lives are what people applaud. And it's true, like with 2s, they're selfless giving. With the 3s, they're over accomplishing. Their 4s, their an ability to differentiate and be different. The things that are applauded are the things that are destroying you. So what I mean by that is, for the 9, is you're working so hard at being agreeable and patient and easygoing that you can lose your identity in that. What do you want in life? What do you want to accomplish in life? What will you say no to? You know that old song, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything? What is it you stand for? What would you never do? Are you able to come up with a list of what it is you are passionate about? Let me put it like this, that makes you special. See, 9s don't think of themselves as special. From a 9's perspective, everybody else is special, but not me. But what is it that makes you special? What makes you special is what makes you stand out and different. Your values, your priorities. And that's what nines sometimes go to sleep to? Their own priorities in life. So focused on getting along and not being a problem that you lose yourself in the process. And then here's the danger, guys. One day you're going to wake up, and maybe by then you'll be an old person, and you'll realize, I just kind of went through every day sort of like a zombie, half alive, not really awake to what I wanted to accomplish or that I needed to accomplish in life. Okay, so inertia can be a very positive thing for nines. The enemy of the nine is gravity. Gravity. It just pulls, it's that quicksand I was talking about. Gravity just holds you back. It just keeps you from taking the step forward. I don't want to be a problem. I don't want to cause problems. I don't want to, so you just lay low and diminish yourself. But why should you be any more diminished than anybody else? What makes you not worth listening to? Why should we not hear what you think? Maybe you have the right answer, but are you going to speak up and share that answer or share that agenda or share that need or that desire? Probably not. Not unless you start working through your own unhealth. You have something to say. You have some contribution to make. And we need to hear what it is. And just getting along with everybody is not the goal in life. It may become your goal, but it's not the goal you should have. You should have a greater goal for your life than just do what it takes to minimize myself, to get along and not be a problem. You have more to offer than that. And you need to get in touch with what it is that you have to offer and then offer that. And yes, you're going to upset some people along the way. And there may be conflict as a result of it. But conflict isn't always bad. Lots of good things can happen as a result of conflict. Conflict is not the greatest thing to be feared. The greatest thing to be feared is to never wake up to what you're supposed to be doing in life. Okay, so nines resist allowing themselves to be upset. Nines resist allowing themselves to feel pressure. They want to not be pressured by anybody on any side. So they can become extremely passive, extremely compliant, extremely complacent, and even to the point of being unresponsive, to tuning out and zoning out and really going to sleep. I've got some good friends that are nines. I've got a daughter that's a nine. And one of the things that nines tell me that I just can't even understand as a seven is that they have within them sort of like an empty box where they can just mentally go when things are unpleasant or when things are boring or when things are tedious. When things are boring for me as a seven, I start to get energy, like, come on, let's go do something. And I start looking for ways to distract myself away from the boredom. That's my unhealth, okay? But the nine's unhealth is that when there's tension or when conversations in the meeting are talking about things that don't involve them, they can just kind of zone out. I mean, even at dinner, they'll tell me, even at dinner, like out at the restaurant with family, they can just zone out into an empty box and just be completely checked out. They hear people talking, but they don't hear the words that are being said. They're conscious but unconscious. And then they'll come back in after 5 minutes or 10 minutes or sometimes longer and say, yep, everybody's still talking, so zone back out. Empty box. A box of nothing. There we go. So nines could be physically alive and geographically present while being completely unavailable. They're not here. They're not there. The sin of the nine is sloth or laziness. And I think it's not like, I've seen nines that are incredible workers. So it's not that they don't like to work. It's just more in the sense of the sloth of whatever is in front of me is worth doing. I don't want to prioritize and insert my will and assert my will to say these projects are worth doing and those projects can be put on hold. That could seem like kind of aggressive to a 9. And so that sloth of just whatever is in front of me, whatever, is I'm facing, then that's what I'm going to be working on. And it could be a crossword puzzle. You may have a stack of paperwork that needs to get done at work, but you'll focus on finishing a crossword puzzle, or you'll focus on finishing a puzzle on your dining room table, or you'll focus on, finishing that television episode, because that's what I'm doing right now. And so this takes priority over the actual jobs that need to get done. That sense of sloth, of being comfortable with nothing. Sweatpants, TV show, your favorite sandwich, your favorite Dr. Pepper, whatever your drink is. And I'm more than content with just a day off and not doing anything. I know as a 7, I get nervous when we're not doing anything, but 9s, that's what you enjoy, is not doing anything. You can literally just do nothing and be fine with that. And that's great on your time down. But when you're doing that, when you need to be accomplishing goals, that's when sloth can rule your life and become your sin. So that apathy that comes from sloth. Now, if 1s live with an inner critic in their minds, always telling them they're not measuring up, they could have done better, they could have started sooner and tried harder. 6s, have an inner wolf pack. 6s, their sin is fear. 1's sin is anger. 6's sin is fear. 6s are like, they always have this wolf pack that's about to get them. So they have to be prepared. They have to take caution. They have lots of anxiety issues because this wolf pack is chasing them down. When 9s start to become unhealthy, they can kind of hear that wolf pack. We'll talk more about that in a second. They start to hear the drum beats of the wolf pack chasing them. 1s have an inner critic. 6s have an inner wolf pack. 9s have an inner sanctum, or an inner sanctuary, where they're at peace and where nothing is allowed to come in and disrupt that peace. And if you disrupt that peace, guess what? That's when you'll see the anger type come out in a 9. What makes 9s angry is when you push on them and push on them and push on them. When you start poking at them and you start telling them what to do and you're relentless about it, at first they'll be agreeable and they'll go along, but that continued push on them into their inner sanctum, that disruption on them, is what eventually, like a dormant volcano, will erupt and they will lose it, and it will scare them because they didn't know it was there. All right? So the 8, think of the 8 as like the geysers. They go off every 15 minutes. Psh, all this heat and steam. But there may not be a lot of actual, there's a lot of energy, okay? And there's a lot of steam, but there may not be a lot of lava in it. People are afraid of the 8 because of all that steam and noise and energy, but they may not actually, hunt you down and get you. There's just sometimes a lot of steam and a lot of noise and a lot of excitement, right? And it's often, and it happens often. The 1 is more like the typical volcano that, when it does erupt, real lava comes out of it, all right? And that anger comes out and that frustration and upset comes out, okay? But it doesn't go off near as often as the 8's geysers do, because 1s are trying to be good, so they hold it all in longer. They're frustrated and they're angry and they're upset, but they do better at holding it in because it's not good to let it all out. They look at the 8 like, boy, that person needs to control themselves. So they control themselves. When it comes out like lava, not just steamy geysers, but real lava. It's upset, it's anger, it's hurtful words, it's condemnation, it's criticism. The 9 sits right in the middle, is like the dormant volcano that nobody ever expects is going to erupt. And so what? People build a village around them, right? And then when they start building that village a little too close to be comfortable, and they start infringing on the comfort of that 9, guess what happens? The 9, just like the 1, can explode in rage and in anger, and it can be devastating because nobody thought it was in there. Nobody saw it coming. It's a surprise to everybody and a surprise to the 9. And they're going to feel awful about it because, that's not, they don't want for that to happen, but it can happen from time to time. So don't upset the inner sanctum of the 9. It's a place where they can go for sanctuary, but here's the danger of it. Everybody needs sanctuary, right? But sometimes they can go there to sort of like avoid life. There's where you get lost. Avoiding life. Life isn't something to be avoided. I understand we all need a little break, a holiday, a vacation sometimes. And I wish some of us were better at having some inner sanctum. But living in the inner sanctum is not the same as living life. Okay. So let's see what else. They can be content with their oversized chair. They can be content with their familiar food, their special sandwich, the simple pleasures of life. That's what makes 9s happy. And the enemy, of course, is gravity. If you're married to a 9 and you have a problem with them, let's say you have a disagreement of some kind, which they're going to do everything they can do to avoid, usually, or to minimize it. If you have a 9 wing 8, they might be a little bit more geyserish than the 9 wing 1. But if you have a disagreement and a marriage problem or something with a 9, here's what I want you to understand. They are secretly hoping that you will work out this problem on your own without their help. They don't want to get involved in it. They don't want to be in the middle of conflict. If there's something wrong in the marriage or in the home, understand the 9 is secretly wishing and hoping that it will just go away. Because they don't want to be moved. They don't want to be challenged. They don't want to be changed. They're hoping that it will just take care of itself. It will just blow over. But we all know that sometimes problems don't just blow over. Sometimes they have to be addressed and dealt with. Their anger shows up, okay, I already talked about that, as quiet stubbornness and an unwillingness to change. Keeping the harmony in the group at the cost of pursuing the mission sometimes. All right, so peace and comfort. Peace and comfort are found in the routine daily activities, the routines of life. They can tune out their problems. Rather than focusing on their goals for life, they're just kind of trying to get through today, just trying to get through life. They can tune in so much to their routines and pleasure, their simple pleasures, that they can distract themselves from the internal deadness that they would feel if they got in touch with their own sense of themselves. But eating snacks, watching reruns, hanging out with friends, playing video games, living vicariously through others, through their kids' activities, can keep them from realizing that their own lives have kind of stalled out. There is a part of them that does not want to admit to having priorities in life. Exercising your own will can cause quarrels and frustration with others. And so they kind of have a hazy daydreaming quality to them. They may have strong feelings about an issue, but their feelings don't always connect into meaningful action. So nines, they can think and feel in a dreamlike state that doesn't correspond to action, or they can do actions in a routine way separated from their thinking and feeling centers. Okay, I'm going to make videos about that later so that we can understand it better, how our thinking, action, and feeling centers relate to one another. But for the 9, they can do actions in routine way, or they can think and dream and feel over here, but it may not translate into action. So they may have a lot of ideas and dreams, but to move those into action seems like sometimes a huge roadblock for the 9. 9s love phrases, therefore, like catchy little quotes like, oh, the Lord will work it out. The Lord will work it out. Or it's all in God's hands now. Or, you know what? I don't have to worry. God's got this. They love to repeat those kinds of phrases because, in effect, what they're saying is, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take action. God's got this. And it's great to have faith that God's got this. You know, a lot of us could learn from that. But that's not the same thing as, I like the idea, when your boat's swamped with water, pray, but then also bail the water. Okay, you got to pray, but you also bail the water. They find a comfort in routines. When they turn on their laptop, you know, they'll probably run through the same list every time of, I check this website, then I check that website, then I check my mail, and then and so they'll go through the same operating routine every time because it's comfortable. In the same order every time, checking those websites in the same order. Telling a 9 to come home by a different route from work could be very upsetting to the 9. If you said, hey, honey, I need you to go by the grocery store on your way home and find this product that you don't know where it's at, is almost an overwhelming thought to most 9s, because now they've got to go home by a different route. So they have to engage the thinking center of their brain. They can't just be in the routine action. So first of all, I've got this challenge of I got to go home a different way. Remember to stop at the grocery store. Go looking for an item that I don't know where it is. Probably have to talk to one of the sales associates in order to find it. This is overwhelming. This is not something that they want to. They probably don't want to go on this mission, and they might not do it. In stubbornness, they might not do it. And when they come home and you say, hey, did you pick up that item from that soy sauce from the grocery store? Oh yeah. And you'll hear an excuse. Oh yeah, I forgot. Or, well, I heard on the news that there was an accident there. And so you'll get some kind of lame story about why they didn't do it. There's the stubbornness of the 9. Some of you guys are getting caught today, and it's good for you to get caught. All right. So we talked about going to sleep to life, easy to get along with. I think of a quintessential example of a 9. Let's do some examples from current movies, TV shows, to give you a picture of what nineness will look like. I think one of the best examples of what a 9 is Harry Potter. I mean, here's a guy that literally grows up, an orphan, unwanted, or his family's dead, his parents are dead. So he's unwanted. He's in a home with family that rejects him. And, he doesn't get birthdays. He doesn't get Christmas. He lives under the stairs with the cobwebs and the spiders. His cousin or whatever it is has 2 bedrooms and Harry has none. And he just wants to get through life. He doesn't intend to be a problem. But if you think about that story, all throughout those movies or those books, life is happening to Harry. Life is pushing him when he doesn't want to be pushed. The 9, I think, feels like that life is something that happens to you. Life moves you even if you don't want to be moved. And so the best thing you can do is minimize yourself, live under the stairs, and just accept things the way they are, and lower your expectations, and you'll be okay. Luke Skywalker, I think, is a 9, who just is out there on whatever planet he's from, and he finds that there's this galactic battle going on, and he needs to get involved in it. And he at first resists it and says, I can't. I've got to plow the fields. I've got to work the farm. Who am I? There's the 9. Who am I? What difference could I make? I'm nobody. There's plenty of people more talented, more gifted, more close to the fight than I am. I'm nothing. That's the 9. Okay? That sense of, why would anybody pick me? How could I be a wizard? How could I ever be a Jedi? Okay? Jerry Gergich from Parks and Recreation. Gary, Jerry, whatever name you want to call him, he's fine. He'll answer to it, right? Doesn't want to cause problems. Toby Flinderson from The Office, I think is a 9. Winnie-the-Pooh is a 9. He's literally just kind of going about his day, hoping to find honey. Not causing problems, not being a problem, just trying to find honey for today. Okay? Simple pleasures. Bob Ross, the painter, with the happy trees. Bob Ross, a lot of singers are 9s. A lot of the vocal standard singers like Tony Bennett, Perry Como, Bing Crosby, Andy Williams. Some of the things I saw said Dean Martin is also a 9. I kind of think Dean Martin might be a 7, but I'm open to it. Jack Johnson, banana pancakes, John Denver is a 9. Think about John Denver and contrast him with somebody like, say, Jewel. All right, Jewel, who sings, "These foolish games are breaking my heart and tearing me apart." You hear the angst in that, the longing, the who am I and my identity, and searching for this desperation, searching for real love, and then think of John Denver. He's literally writing songs like Bob Ross, painting pictures of trees and rivers and happy streams and happy, snow scenes. John Denver's writing songs about what? Trees and rocks and mountains and old guitars and flying on airplanes and back home again and being a country boy. It's the simple pleasures of life. It's sitting up on a mountain and smoking marijuana with your friends. What could you ask for more than just, getting high with your friends under a starry sky? That's 9 stuff. All right? Kevin Spacey. Again, I'm not saying all 9s are drug addicts. No, I'm not saying that. Kevin Spacey, John Candy. A lot of funny people are 9s. John Candy. Jeff Daniels. Think Dumb and Dumber. Okay? Lloyd, a 7. Jim Carrey, and Harry, a 9. Okay, think about like in Home Alone, the angry 8, Joe Pesci, Marv and Harry. I think Harry was the 8, the angry one, and Marv, the 9. Who goes along with him? His best idea is, we're the sticky bandits. We're the wet bandits. There's his identity. There's his name. Sticky Bandits, Wet Bandit. Going along with, the 8. Or in, Dumb and Dumber, I'll drive the big dog car, and Lloyd, who says, we're going to go to Colorado. We're going to go do this. The assertive 8, the assertive 7, and the 9 goes along with them. Okay? Will Ferrell is a 9. Most of his movies are about what's happening to him and how he's just trying to manage the situation. Ray Romano is a 9. Kevin James is a 9. Think of Doug and Carrie, okay? Think of Ray and Deborah and Everybody Loves Raymond. Deborah's a 2, Raymond's a 9, okay? And Raymond's stuck between his family. His dad is an 8. His mom is a 2-3, 3-2, somewhere in there, probably a 2-3. Deborah's probably a 2-1. And Ray's stuck between one powerful force, his wife, and the other powerful force, his parents. And he's trying to moderate that situation. That's what the show's about. Or think of Kevin James in King of Queens. His wife, a powerful 8, Carrie. His crazy father-in-law, who's a 4, Arthur, and Doug pretty much wants to be unchanged, wants to wear sweatpants, doesn't want to be a manager, wants to drive his truck, finds peace and comfort in the simple things, a sandwich, and going to the bar and getting a drink with his friends. Okay, watch the show from that perspective. John Goodman with Roseanne, an 8. Okay, Kevin Costner, Matt Damon, Alec Guinness, James Earl Jones, Woody Harrelson, Jimmy Stewart. I haven't seen this, but I think probably Andy Griffith is a 9. Clint Eastwood is a good example of a 9. He looks like an 8, but he's not an 8. Clint Eastwood, think about this. The cowboy movies from the 60s, right? What's his name? He's the cowboy with no name. Why? Because for a 9, who I am is not important. He doesn't even have a name. What does he do? He goes into a little town, tries to be unnoticed, finds this bad guy is fighting with that bad guy and it's ruining life for the villagers. And so he tries to ignore it. He just goes in for a shave. He just goes in for a drink, gets caught up in the middle of a conflict, and the 9/8, which is what Clint Eastwood is the referee, called the referee, gets caught up in a conflict that he has to settle, shoots the bad guys, and then what? Rides out of town. Wants to be left alone, wants to leave others alone, and the only time he's moved to action is when he's forced into action. And then he blows up like a dormant volcano, kills off the bad guys, and then leaves. Okay, Clint Eastwood, good example of what it looks like to be a 9 wing 8. Gary Sinise, Morgan Freeman, Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, Dwight Eisenhower, Gerald Ford, Abraham Lincoln. The list goes on and on and on. Gandhi, Norman Rockwell, and here's another cool one, Walt Disney, the 9 wing 1. So the 9 wing 8 is called the referee. The 9 wing 1 is called the dreamer. Okay, Walt Disney, Norman Rockwell. And I'll show you another great example of a 9 wing 1, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers is a 9. Now, think about this, guys. Mr. Rogers had a very simple message throughout the decades that his TV show was on. What was that message? You are special. You are special. There's nobody in the world like you. That's his message. You are special. But if you were to sit down with Fred Rogers in an interview and ask him, Mr. Rogers, are you special? My guess is he would probably say, oh, no, there's nothing about me that's special. I'm just an ordinary guy, just blessed to do such a work, See, you're special. The 9 doesn't think of themselves that they are special. You remember the song that he used to sing? It's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling that you're growing inside. See, 9s, we all tend to not only look at the world from our own perspective, but then prescribe that world to others. In other words, 2s think everybody should be nice. 1s think not only should they be good, but everybody ought to do the right thing, right? 9s, look at what he says. It's such a good feeling to know you're alive. You know what the problem is for a 9? Sometimes they don't know they're alive. They're so agreeable to everyone else that they take themselves out of the picture. So the question I would have for Mr. Rogers, the question I would have for all of the 9s out there is, are you? Are you alive? Let's meet you. How about you show up and voice your opinion? Oh, that'll make people upset. It might. But maybe some of the people that are around you that you've been friends with aren't really your friends. They're friends with you because you're so daggone likable and agreeable. But if you actually voiced up what your opinion was, what your ideas were, what your thoughts and plans and dreams were, you might find that those people that you call your friends are not really, they don't even care about you. And maybe that's, at the end of the day, what can be hard to face. And you know what the other thing is too, is if you really tap down deep inside, you may find a scary thing for you is you don't really care about them either. You just want to be left alone. You just want to be not messed with. You may not even care about them. I've known 9s that when they really think about it, they don't even like the person they're married to. But what they like is the energy that person brings into their life. So maybe they're married to an 8, or maybe they're married to a 3, or maybe they're married to a 1. And the person drives them nuts. But they can't imagine not being with them because they feed off of the energy of that other person. They feed off of that 7. Just like in Home Alone and in Dumb and Dumber, the 9 feeds off the energy of the 8 or feeds off the energy of the 7. You may find that really what your relationships are about is you're just feeding off the energy of the people around you. But when you really stop and think about it and say, are these people good for me? You know, is Sarah being a good friend to me? You may find, I don't even like Sarah. I need to cut ties with Sarah. Sarah is bringing me down. But I can't imagine not being in a relationship with Sarah. So you just keep going along with people that are not good for you, maybe not good for you. But you don't take the time to assess and insert and assert your will and say, you know what? I deserve better friends than this. I deserve to be treated better than this. People ought to hear what I think. And if they don't like it, you know, that's okay. They can go in their own direction. I can go in mine. Okay. So let's see. Let me say it like this. You're a very well-mannered, think of Mr. Rogers, well-mannered, mild-mannered, at peace. Here's the thing that maybe you don't think about though as a 9. To what expense to yourself are you being that mild-mannered? In other words, what is it costing you to suppress your frustrations and desires so much in life in order to be that mild-mannered? To what expense is it to you? In other words, it's costing you something to be that darn likable. It's costing you something to be that agreeable. It's taking its toll on you, and it can show up in all kinds of ways: ulcers, panic attacks, disorders, eating disorders. It can take its toll on you. This living in the background, this living under the stairs, can take a lot of expense of energy from you that you may not even be conscious of. And this is why I think sometimes 9s can literally go to sleep during a show, during a movie, sitting on the couch, in conversation with people. They can check out, they can blank out, zone out, and actually physically go to sleep. Why? Because they have no sense of how exhausting it is. They have no awareness of how exhausting it is to be this likable, this agreeable, and what a toll it's taking on your personality, what a toll your personality is taking on your personhood. There we go. Man, that's good stuff. I hope you 9s know I'm trying to be your friend. I can see from my own perspective, by reading, studying, living with 9s, talking with 9s, I can see from a different perspective what this is doing to you. And I hope you take this as a friend. I don't want to ruin your life. I'm not trying to intrude on your life or impose on your life. I just want to be a voice that connects with your own inner voice and says, what do you want in life? If you were to wake up and you were to show up fully, what would you be doing right now? Would you be doing what you're doing? Would you be working the job you're working? Would you be in the friendships that you're in? To take a second and really think about it, engage your thoughts and feelings, and then decide maybe some new actions need to happen in life. Get out of the routine, get out of the quicksand for a minute. Okay. So we talked about the 9-8, the referee. Think about that, guys, a referee. Referees aren't players. Let that sink in for a second. Referees are in the game, but they're not players. Harry Potter's a referee. He's quiet, he's mild-mannered until somebody's picking on somebody, and then he intervenes, and he gets in the middle of it, and he tries to settle it. And he uses his powers to settle it, and then he goes back to the background again. Referees aren't players. They're observers. Just let that sink in for a second. This is the whole problem right here. Are you an observer to life, or are you a player on the field in life? Think about that, okay? The 9-3 is the dreamer. Dreamers also, guess what? Aren't players. They're not awake. They're asleep. That's why they're dreaming. Okay? Let it sink in. Unhealthy, withdrawn 9s will disintegrate into compliant, scared, anxious-driven 6s. Let's do it the other way. Let's talk about the 3s. In health, withdrawn 9s become like assertive 3s. So the average mild-mannered withdrawn 9 says, you know what? I've got a vision to accomplish something. So, like, think Walt Disney. Think Mr. Rogers, okay? They have a dream to accomplish something, and then they go and do it. They throw the line out and hit a target, and then that's the goal, and then they move toward the goal. That's what 9s look like when they're healthy. They look like 3s. They look like achievers. Think about that. Within every 9 is a sleepy 3 that, if woken up, would what? Would prioritize what they want to accomplish in life, catch a vision and a dream, throw out a gauntlet and say, this is what I want to accomplish, and then go and do it. That's within you as a 9. And the cool thing is if you wake up to that, you will do it in such a better way than a 3 does it. A 3 can't go to sleep at night because their goals keep them awake. The cool thing about being a 9 is you can tap into that drivenness and then go home and relax and go to bed and not stay up all night worried about whether or not you're a person of worth or value, or worried about whether or not people are trying to subvert your goals. You can literally go home and just relax and leave work at work. What a great thing. But when 9s are unhealthy, you know what? They start hearing the beating of the drums that the 6 hears. They start hearing the warning beat out, drums beat out. They hear the wolf pack. In other words, they've sat around so long that now the paper's due and the anxiety starts to creep up, and they're worried about they're going to lose their relationships, and they're worried about offending people, and they're worried about losing their job. And now they're moved to action, but not because it's a goal, but because of fear, like a 6. Okay? In the same way a 6 can be moved to action because of fear. And you can just put your, thumb on your pulse and decide for yourself, how healthy am I? Do I move to action? When I move to action as a 9, am I moving to action because it's a goal I've set for myself and I'm trying to accomplish something great? Or am I moved to action because I ran out of options, I ran out of time, and now it's do or die? Then you're living in unhealth as a 9. You start to feel that anxiety of 6s. As children, 9s tried to keep a low profile in their family by not asserting themselves. They just decided, for the happiness of the family, it's better if I just not noticed. What a sad thing. It's better if I disappear. And what the operating system they have is, if I'm a low maintenance child and I stay out of the way, then my family could stay together. Okay. The basic fear is a fear of separation, or a fragmentation, that everything's going to break apart. The family's going to break apart. My stability is going to break apart. And so that fear keeps you from being a problem. Don't be a problem because you'll break everything apart. So the basic desire for the 9 is to have inner stability and peace of mind and wholeness. So that's what their personality is geared to try to accomplish. The message that they tell themselves is, I'm good and okay as long as everybody around me is good and okay. So I've got to work hard to try to keep everybody good and okay. The way to be happy is to keep everybody else happy and not be a problem. Avoid conflict and preserve things the way they are. Don't allow anybody to upset my equilibrium, and don't upset others' equilibrium. And then they try to defend that everything is okay in the world, this view that everything is okay in the world. The basic thing they're saying about themselves is, I'm a peaceful, easygoing person. But the hidden complaint is, I would be much more peaceful and easygoing if people would stop bothering me. Is if everybody would quit pressuring me to change. So their tactic is to avoid conflict by not asserting themselves, or making their desires known, or taking a strong position, by being direct with people. This all feels like aggression to them. They don't want to disrupt or destroy the harmony that exists. And so this simmering anger sort of goes unnoticed beneath the surface. And they simply just become unself-conscious, unaware of themselves, and mistakenly think their presence doesn't matter, and their engagement in life doesn't matter, and their input doesn't matter, and that they themselves don't matter, and they operate under that assumption, I'm nobody special, and what I have to say and what I have to do is not really important. And if you're in a relationship with a 9, let me tell you a never ever behavior. Never talk over a 9. Which, guess what we all do? Talk over 9s. Because if you talk over a 9, you've just solidified that lie in their head that what they have to say isn't important. And they will just look down and they will let you talk over them, and they will lose what it is they were going to say. And they'll just say to themselves, I knew what I had to say wasn't important. So if you're in a relationship with a 9, you can decide real quick, am I being a good partner for this 9? Then quit talking over them. Listen to what they have to say. Try to draw out their desires from them. In other words, say, where do you want to eat tonight for dinner? The 9 will say, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want. So then what you do is give them back 2 suggestions and say, well, would you rather eat at Taco Bell or at McDonald's? And then wait and let them think about it. Because what you're forcing them to do is prioritize. To get in touch with their own inner voice, think about it, what is their preference, and then force them to say it out loud. And then support it and say, Taco Bell? Sounds great. Let's go to Taco Bell. It's like a muscle that you're getting them to work. What do you want? I'll go along with you. Because that's what they want to do. They want to go along with your agenda. So you try to find out what their agenda is and then go along with it. Never talk over a 9. If you live with a 9, you know how funny this is, because we do. We do talk over. Just like we take a 2 for granted. Never take a 2 for granted. Never tell a 1 that they're wrong and criticize them. Never try to control a 7. Okay. Never talk over a 9. All right. We got to wrap this up. I'm going over my time I want to go to. So let's just talk about steps to healing. 1 to 10. We'll keep these. I'll say these as fast as I can. If you're a 9, what do you do? What's your steps to healing? How do you wake up to yourself? Number 1, stop just going along with others to keep the peace. Try to get in touch with what you want. It's impossible to really be loved by people if they don't really know you, because you won't let them know you, because you think you don't matter. Number 2, exert yourself and force yourself to pay attention to what's going on in life. Don't go to sleep to life. Recognize when you're zoning out and then bring your attention back to what's happening in front of you. Number 3, recognize your anger for what it is and your anxiety for what it is, and allow yourself to become more aware of your own feelings. Number 4, honestly examine how you've contributed to the problems you have in your relationships by zoning out to them. By trying to sacrificing your will to keep things okay has caused maybe an underlying frustration within you toward the people in your relationships. Number 5, exercise more frequently. Get in touch with your body. Get in touch with your emotions. Walking every day would be a good exercise for you. Try to get in touch with how you're feeling, because that's one of the things you shut down is your feelings. Try to get in touch with your feelings and how you're feeling about life. Exercise can help do that. Number 6, repressing your feelings instead of dealing with them is almost a sure way to have aches and pains and sickness in your life. Migraines, panic attacks, nausea, backaches, all these things could be the result of you forcing down all of these feelings and just ignoring them. Number 7, don't start using drugs or alcohol to tranquilize yourself. Okay, tranquilizing yourself is not the direction you need to go in. Waking yourself up is the direction you need to go in. Number 8, recognize that you may come to the end of your life and realize that you've never lived. So accept the magnitude of what it means to be alive, to tap into your own goals, to tap into your own dreams, to tap in your own desires in life. Number 9, trust yourself to ventilate your anger with your friends, your spouse. Say, are these relationships stable enough that I could be real and speak up? Okay, and then test that and do it. And sometimes it may cause conflict, but conflict isn't the end of the world. It's worth it to vocalize your own views, your own opinions. Trust your marriage, the strength of your friendship. And if your friends can't handle you speaking the truth, then maybe they're not really your friends. Number 10, one of the greatest assets you have is your receptivity to people. Others feel calm and safe around you, but they will love you and seek you out even more if they feel you understand them and are attentive to their needs. So listen to people carefully, get to know them, yes, but let them know who you really are. If you just merge with everybody, then you're no longer a distinct person. You can't keep peace between yourself and others because for all practical purposes, you agree with everybody. So be yourself, know yourself, be your own identity, and let people realize what a great person is inside there. All right, guys. Thank you guys. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Be present to life. For 9s, that means showing up and being you. Not some version of you that's easy to get along with, but let your voice, let your desires, let your will be made known, and show up fully to life. See you guys, and blessings.